What's up, guys? It's Dorian doing a review here on a distro that I tried out on Friday, and I've actually been using it all weekend, and I'm really impressed with it. It is Q4OS. Now, I don't know if there's a certain way that they pronounce it, Q4, who knows? It's Q4OS, anyways, and it is a Debian-based desktop Linux distribution designed to offer classic-style user interface Trinity and simple accessories, and to serve stable APIs for complex third-party applications such as blah, 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 blah. So Debian-based, that means it is stable. And the new version was just released on Friday, 2.6. And if you go to their website and go to their downloads link, by the way, they also have a forum. If I just zoom it out, they have a forum link up here as well. And the forum's fairly active and the team responds fairly quickly. So if you go to the downloads link, you'll have three versions here: 64-bit Plasma of Kde Plasma 5, Trinity 64-bit, and Trinity 32-bit. Now, the Plasma version also includes the Trinity version, so that's the one I'm going to show you in a virtual machine. And now if you look at the URL up here, it's downloads1.html. If you change that to a 2, you come to this secret downloads page where they have their testing distro of Q4OS 3. It's actually 3.1, and it's codenamed Centaurus, where 2.6 is codenamed Scorpion. 2.6 is based on Debian 9.5 Stretch, and the testing version is based on Debian Buster. So this is testing. It's not quite as stable, but you're going to have some newer packages there. So that's up to you which one you want to try. I'm going to show you both. So I have a virtual machine here, and I've loaded it up with the Kde Iso. So this ISO includes both Kde Plasma 5 and Trinity. So Trinity is a fork of Kde 3, because they didn't like what happened when Kde moved on to version 4, so they forked 3 and customized it, and it went on its own path, and it's still around, and it's called Trinity. So I'm loading up the Kde Desktop now. I'll be able to switch over to Plasma in the virtual machine to show you that. The host machine that I'm running is actually Kde 5 Plasma. So here we are at the desktop. We've got a welcome screen here, and a few different options to get you started. So run desktop profiler. This is something you want to do after you've installed it, but I'll run through it really quick here. So you have the options of full-featured desktop with web browser, office suite, and recommended application set, basic desktop with common utilities, or keep it as it is now. You also have an option up here where you can say, yes, I want to install additional desktop environments. So you can also install LXQT, XFCE, LXDE, Mate, Cinnamon, GNOME, and Trinity, but Trinity is already installed. So you can install additional desktops here and then hit install and off you go. So if you look at what's installed by default, there really isn't a lot. So you have Chrome, Dolphin, and system settings. If we go into the applications, you have ImageMagick, Internet has Chrome and Conqueror, Settings is just a partition, gparted partition editor, and system settings. System is file manager, another file manager, Crusader, some info partition stuff, and system monitors. And utilities is the Crusader file manager and kwrite. So very, very basic. It's why it's a very small ISO to download, because you can add everything after the fact. So next is install applications, which is just a little shortcut. It's their little software center with some commonly used things, or you can open up the package manager and install it that way. You can install proprietary codecs, turn on desktop effects, which is only for Trinity, switch to a kickoff start menu, and set the auto login so that you bypass the login screen. So let's just go ahead and fire up the installer, and I'll go through it really quick, and then I'll show you the Trinity desktop on 2.6. So we want English, Canada, forward, and Canada. Oh, that's not Canada. Canada, sure. And it assumes French, which, okay. English US keyboard, yes, that's what it looks like. Full name, Dorian, fills out the username, password. Do not log in automatically. And let's give it a host name of Q4OS forward. And it's going to partition it this way. So we have a swap, we have this. So you would just tell it where you want it mounted. Nope, not home. This, okay, and a swap. You should also have an EFI partition as well so that it can load up properly. And so I'm not going to actually install it here. It's going to install as per normal. So I'm just going to fire up the virtual machine here of 2.6 and show you what the Trinity Desktop looks like. So here we are at the login screen. Normally you would have the SDDM login, but I've installed a few DEs. So I have GNOME installed and Plasma and Trinity. GNOME is 3.22, so it's a little bit older, but still very good. Plasma is 5.8, I believe, and then Trinity. So I'm going to show you Trinity now, and then I'll go over Plasma later. So the cool thing about when you first load this up the first time is it'll pop up and it'll say that it has detected that it's running in a virtual machine. And then it'll ask you if you want to run the VirtualBox guest editions from its own repos, and it does everything for you. It'll also detect on hardware if you have an Nvidia graphics card, and it'll install the graphics card for you. So it's really cool. I really like that automation of it, and it's really impressed me so far. So this is Trinity, and this is the fork of Kde 3. It's fairly simple, fairly light. I'm going to look for the terminal, and that's very small, so let's, it won't let me resize. All right, let's just do this. So top reports, it is using 434 megabytes of RAM, which isn't too bad. So Trinity is okay. You might think it's a little dated. It looks like an XFCE desktop sort of, and I'm not a huge fan of the icons, but you know what? If you just want something stable, awesome. So it uses some older utilities like Conqueror for your file browser instead of Dolphin. Again, remember this is based on Kde 3, and your applications are going to also have some older things that are Kde 3, like the old look switcher. But the applications are basically anything that you could get in Debian Stretch now. So it'll be that version as well. Now this isn't very nice to browse through because I can't use my mouse's back button, but it has a ton of games. Graphics, GIMP, it's going to have 2.8 because, again, using Debian Stretch, it's older repos. But on the newer 3.1, which I'll show you later, it has version 3.10. It has all the newer software. And now because I've installed a lot of desktop environments as well, there's a whole lot of different things mixed in here from Plasma and from GNOME. So this is a little bit messy, but it gives you an idea. So the Firefox Web Browser, the Firefox ESR Web Browser extended support release comes with it. And you can also install Chrome and anything else that you can install on Debian. Under Office, we have a regular document viewer, Ocular. And under Settings, you have additional drivers, look switcher. I haven't tried additional drivers because this is actually a GNOME additional drivers thing. Under System, we've got a bunch of system stuff, package installer, process viewer, a lot of regular stuff. Nothing really stands out as being fantastic. Disks, desktop search, characters, calculator. So your usual stuff. I'm not going to go through every single thing, but if you're looking for stability, then this is definitely something stable, especially for an older machine that can't quite run Kde Plasma 5. Then this is definitely a good option. However, I'm going to show you now Kde Plasma 5. This is Kde Plasma 5, and this is running on hardware. Like I said, I was very impressed with the setup, so much so that I installed it on hardware. When you run it in a virtual machine, right away it picks up that it's running in a virtual machine, and it asks you if you want to install the VirtualBox drivers from its own repos. You do that, it works perfect. And when you install it on hardware, it detected that I have an Nvidia graphics card, and it asked me if I wanted to install it. Did that, perfect, no problems whatsoever. And a bonus to that also is I followed the Debian Bumblebee instructions for Optimus, and it was just installing Bumblebee, Nvidia Primus. Let's zoom this in. Bumblebee, Nvidia, and Primus, and I don't think I even did anything else. I added the user to the Bumblebee group, and that was it. So now I have Bumblebee or Optimus actually working properly. So if I do GLX Gears, this is my first time plugging it into a second monitor too. So again, I'm having the issue of Windows opening on the other side. This is running off the Intel GPU. And if I do Optirun GLX Gears, you can see I have a Bumblebee indicator here. Do that, and it's going to open in the other window. So you can see that it lit up, and there is a little glitch here. Normally it would show the temperature as an overlay on top of here, but there's some kind of glitch where it's showing all this text instead. I don't know why, but the point is that the Nvidia card does work, and it shuts off whenever I close the application. Works perfectly, and I'm running KDE, and as you could tell, there's no flickering like I had before. I had an issue of flickering in Manjaro KDE, and here it's smooth as silk, no flickering. I'm looking at my OBS screen now and then over here to see if there's any flickering, but I haven't seen anything, so I'm really happy with that so far. Steam I've installed, so same thing as before. I go to Properties, Launch Options, Optirun, %, and when I run the game, like City Skyline, for example, I want it to run on my Nvidia. It fires up, runs off my Nvidia, no problem. Don't Starve is a little lighter. It runs just fine off the Intel GPU, so I have no options in there. So everything is working as it should. Driver-wise, it picked up my Wi-Fi, no problem. It picked up everything. One thing to note while I'm talking about drivers and support, it's using kernel 4.9. So that is a little bit older. So if you have a brand new laptop, there's a slight chance you might have driver issues. The best way to tell is to run off of a live USB and test it out first, make sure your Wi-Fi and all that good stuff works. But for me, my laptop is not even a year and a half old, and I have no problems. It works just great. So older kernel, but again, stable, no issues, and I have no flickering in this recording, and KDE is running great. So I've also got Kdenlive installed. It runs great. OBS installed, obviously, because I'm recording this, and it's running great. Applications here, Office, again, LibreOffice is 5, so it's older. There are ways to get newer software on an older distro if you want to. I haven't gotten to that point yet. Like I said, I've only been playing with it since Friday, but it's impressed me so much that I've installed it on my system. So that's saying something, right? GIMP 2.8, I can live with that. I'm actually going to try to install Photoshop on here as well, because Krita, the older version, is worse than the newer version. And I know a lot of people like to defend Krita, but the issue with it is the layer blending for me is just way too slow. It takes way too long. I just can't get away from Photoshop. Once they Once they fix that and they speed that up, then it'll be a different story. Utilities, I haven't installed a whole lot here. File manager is Dolphin, so that's a bonus. That's getting away from using Conqueror on the Trinity Desktop. And what else was I looking at here? The Nvidia server settings, KSysGuard, terminal, VirtualBox is running. The software center is called Discover, and I've never actually used it before, but it works really well. This is how I've been installing things. So you just type what you want, hit install, and off you go. You just click on it and get more information, description, screenshots, and whatnot. So I really like Discover. I'm not sure its origin, but I'm pretty happy with it. The theming out of the box is white, and I just changed that to dark, which on any KDE is super easy to do. The default was this with a white taskbar, and I don't really like that because it washes out the icons, so I went with a dark, and I like that much better. KDE itself, if we go to the info center, is 5.8.6. So again, a little bit older. I think 5.14 is out now, I believe, is the latest. I'm not 100% sure on that. But like I said, everything's running great. Everything's running smooth. Battery usage is fantastic on a laptop. I have yet to run into an issue installing anything that I use. Kdenlive I use for my video editing. I tried doing a little bit of editing just to test it out. Worked perfectly fine. Again, everything is slightly older versions, but if you can live with that and you just want something that's super stable, then this is definitely highly recommended. So that's 2.6. So 3.3. I'll fire this up now and let you guys have a little look at it. Remember, this is based on Debian Buster. It's unstable. It's not official yet, but you can still use it if you want. If it's your main machine, then you might want to think hard about that. So this is the SDDM default login screen that you would get. And down here, you have the session option where you can pick either Plasma or Trinity. So I'll just go ahead and log in to Plasma. Now this is a newer version of Plasma. It's not brand new. It's not cutting edge. This isn't a rolling release, remember. So we're going to go in here and info center. So it's Kde Plasma 5.13.4. So newer, but not a whole lot changed in my opinion. If you were to look at something like the system settings, then yes, that's definitely changed. It looks a little different. It used to be the big bunch of icons, and now it's a nice little list down the side here. If I were to install this on hardware, I would not want it to be my main distro, although don't quote me on that. I haven't tried it that much. It might work just fine. It might not. It's a testing and unstable release, so that's totally up to you. But yeah, the last thing that I wanted to mention is that I did have one issue with installing this OS, and I don't know what happened, but I installed it on hardware. I had a lot of issues getting the ISO to actually boot off of a USB to begin with. I used DD, which is what I always used. That didn't work. UNet booting didn't work. I actually had to boot into Windows 10, and use Rufus. That worked. No idea why. Maybe it's just my system. I actually haven't gotten around to installing this on another one of my systems to test it even further. But when it finally did install, something happened and all my EFI was gone. I rebooted my system and it went straight into the BIOS settings. And there was no BIOS options for any EFI systems at all. The partition was there. My EFI partition was still there. All the files were still there. Everything was intact, but I had to boot my system into legacy mode, like disable UEFI, go into legacy mode, which then would still only boot off of the Q4OS live USB stick that I had. And I used that to install Timeshift and use my backup partition to recover everything to the day before, including the EFI partition, and reinstall the bootloader, and then it worked. So I don't know what happened there. That was really, really weird. I tried to chroot into my Manjaro partition and reinstall grub from there. That didn't work either. So I don't know what happened. It was really, really weird. There was absolutely no reason why I couldn't install, or I couldn't boot from any EFI, including my Windows partition, which is on a completely separate hard drive. So really weird glitch. I don't know what happened. So if you're installing it on hardware, if it's going to be your only distro, you're just wiping everything out, cool, don't worry about it. But be very, very cautious. Make sure you have backups if you're going to do this to dual boot. If you want to run it in a virtual machine, awesome. It works really great in a virtual machine as well. Being that there was a really weird glitch that I've never ever experienced before, would I still recommend this distro? Yes, I would. It's Kde based off of Debian, which is awesome. And they've put in a lot of work into making a lot of things automated, like installing your drivers for you, installing guest editions for you, a lot of scripting, a lot of really smart ways of getting you up and running and doing things for you so you're not, trying to figure it out yourself. Am I happy with it? I absolutely am. Would I install it again? I am going to install it again. I'm going to install it on a different piece of hardware and see if that glitch comes back, because it was really, really strange. And I checked the forums on their website and there was no issue that I saw. I haven't checked in the last couple of days, but there was no issue that I saw of anyone else having this problem. So it could have been a random glitch. I mean, it happens. I've been distro hopping for a long time and I've never had that happen before, where there was just no EFI at all. Anyways, Q4OS, guys, check it out. It's awesome. It's stable. And I'm actually going to probably use it for a little while. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to edit this video that I'm making in it. And who knows? I might switch over to this. I don't know. Ever since I tried Kde, I've been really wanting to keep trying it. So we'll see what happens. So anyways, that's it for now, guys. I would like to thank all my patrons over on Patreon: Carlos Arknos, Carl, George, Matt, Kit, Says, and Reagan. Thank you guys so much for contributing to my channel and helping me contribute to the Linux community. If you would like to help me contribute, head on over to patreon.com/Dorian./ That's all for now, guys. Till next time, bash on.